Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Freya Powell. I'm the Deputy Estates Manager of Coleg y Cymoedd. As you can see, it's just me today. So my other colleagues which were involved in the project was Amy Salcombe from NHS Procurement, Elias Dada from NHS Procurement, and Julie Holmes from the Cardiff City Council Operations Manager for Capital Projects. So our project is, as you can see, mutual carbon reduction planning. So it's working collaboratively. The project has become a product of looking at how we can work with contractors within the construction industry and get them to acknowledge circular economy and carbon reduction. So this allows them a better understanding of procurement processes to tender for work within the public sector, measuring and reporting carbon reduction throughout the project and then beyond, and understanding and working to Welsh Assembly government policies. So, at Christmas, we started to look at why we choose a construction industry. We all had a general understanding, especially myself and Julie, were undertaking capital projects at the time and working closely with the construction industry and was involved in the procurement process. And we had Amy and Elias who are very knowledgeable with procurement, that's their expertise. We amalgamated the two. And what became quite evident at the time is we all had opinions and assumptions about the construction industry and how it procures and measures carbon reduction throughout projects and how they engage in the circular economy. So our opinions and assumptions were they may need some assistance and they may not have that broad understanding of what they should be doing. So we looked at how might we do that and so that we could improve things in the future to assist them. So at this point, we thought we had our light bulb moment by having a solution to the problems straight away, that we were going to take one and lobby the Welsh Assembly Government to create a better working knowledge of its policies relating to net zero and the circular economy. So it allows the Tier 2 and Tier 3 contractors in the industry to have a better chance of competing for contracts by including the necessary and relevant information surrounding net zero by the circular economy as a whole. So, by Christmas, we had to think how we were actually going to improve this. So you can see how we might take the initiative to improve the knowledge of the circular economy delivery within the construction and procurement, develop a practical understanding throughout South Wales. So it was more of a practical understanding rather than a theoretical one. It's actually getting to understand by doing. And supporting the application of policies without waiting for the Welsh Assembly Government initiative and for them to tell the construction industry what to do. And run PowerPoint presentations for the supply chain and category leads on carbon reduction. So we looked at frameworks, and frameworks were still showing limited weighted towards sustainability, carbon reduction and circular economy. Still quality focused, still cost focused, and it was evident from that if contractors wanted to produce something in relation to CE and CR and sustainability, the contractors will have to embed it into the procurement system themselves, because the scoring system appears to be at the moment more cost and quality. So it was this point we began to realise that there could be action taken by us, by others, rather than waiting for the Welsh Assembly Government. So our expertise and knowledge is out there in the public sector already. So the public sector could run a PowerPoint presentation for our suppliers and our category leads, especially what is required by them in terms of procurement towards carbon reduction and towards 2030. Again, we thought that would be another light bulb moment. So by Easter, it was time to refocus. We trusted the cake process and started to apply and reapply tools that we learnt during our course. One particular that stood out was the double diamond. Firstly, we thought we had a solution to the problem straight away. We were going to lobby the Welsh Assembly government to get the information out there. We would just stand back and just, there we are, pack up and go home. They were going to do all the work for us. But not really understanding what the problem was in the beginning. So our individual expertise from procurement side, Amy and Elias, and myself and Julie from the construction side, seemed to go off and do our separate things to try and drill down into things within the project in isolation, really. And that our expertise and knowledge was hindering the process. What we were doing at that point is drilling down too much into details. It's looking at SIC codes, contract and tender documentation, scrutiny, individual construction projects and analysis. So we weren't looking at the broader problem, the broader picture. So where are we now? So we identified we were drilling down too much into too much detail too soon. So we reshaped our definition of the project. So we came up with it in order to enable Wales to become a reuse and repurpose economy. We need to deliver a practical understanding of the circular economy within the supply chain, with procurement practices for main and subcontractors within the construction industry. So we kept our definition more broader, not drilling it down into detail that people wouldn't understand, and just putting aside the nitty-gritty when the industry wouldn't have that understanding of what we were drilling down into our expertise. So at this point, we decided to collectively meet with a principal contractor, which was Kia's. The only reason we met with Kia's and we chose Kia's because we were working with them at that point anyway. And they brought on board some of their Tier 2 and Tier 3 contractors. So Tier 2, Richard Kimball, and Tier 3, Puma Flooring. So we got round a table and discussed and see what they wanted to engage with the public sector, how we could help them, and try and get an understanding of what knowledge they had and what they were doing already. Okay, so our findings. So we identified potential benefits. Straight away we were getting that quite a positive feedback from our contractors. It was evident that we could use a case study with what Kia's were doing with the Tier 2 and Tier 3s. And we can get more information from that as a benchmark, because there currently doesn't appear to be one evidence of one. There was one comment with the procurement policy note at the moment is already steering added value. And in the policy of carbon reduction plan is required for projects over 4 million. But what contractors were finding, that they were implementing and using their resource to produce carbon reduction plans, but nobody seemed to be taking much of an interest in the public sector. So they in their view then, that they were producing carbon reduction plans and it was just wasting their resource if nobody was seen to be taking an interest. And the supply chain could be better informed. So starting with Kia's, right the way through to the supply chain. So lower down the supply chain, the knowledge seemed to dilute. Be local and look at the supply chain. Why are we importing refrigeration equipment from Italy when we've already got something that we could refurbish and a company down the road can do that? So that's looking at the circular economy with local businesses and obviously a reduction of waste and having to replace. Look at bringing in local contractors and local companies at the design stage to reduce waste up front and therefore having no waste to get rid of. The way the procurement system is set up at the moment, until you actually engage those contractors, it's very difficult for them to implement their knowledge and give more detailed advice how we can reduce waste. So Kia's came up with some really good points. They're already working with their contractors. They're looking at like a mini sustainability school and looking at upskilling and supporting their contractors. Already they're due to be undertaking an event next week, I think. They want to get not their own contractors on board, but potential contractors. So they're not just keeping it in the house. They want their knowledge and what they know about the procurement processes, and they want to put it out there actually into the industry. And also deal with the client. There seems to be some ignorance within the public sector at the moment that what they're going to be doing with carbon reduction, circular economy is going to be more expensive, and it's still it's very cost-based. So the client needs to know and scope the upfront costs of accreditation and everything else that might be required and stick to it. Richard Kimball suggested there is a need for resources and how to review resources, especially lower down the supply chain. Do they have an understanding what resources they might need as a contractor? And it comes back to quality over cost, really. It's all down to cost and not taken on board the sustainable circular economy and carbon reduction. And it's all about, we all agreed there's no blueprint at the moment of what is right and wrong. So we're all having to work together and try and get that, maybe use Kia's, what they're doing as a case study, learn from that, maybe see where we as public sector can bolt on with our knowledge. So that's what we're going to be doing as a public sector. Is we're definitely going to be working more closely with our suppliers and seeing what our knowledge can assist them going forward. And that's it. Thank you for listening.